curse of the Necronomicon. A group of 5 friends, Mia, David, Natalie, Eric, and Olivia, decided to spend a weekend at a remote cabin in the woods. They hoped the isolation would help Mia overcome her struggles with addiction. The cabin was run down and eerie, but they brushed off their unease, attributing it to the remote location. Little did they know, the cabin held a dark secret. While exploring the cabin, Eric stumbled upon a hidden trapdoor in the floor. Curiosity getting the better of him, he opened it and descended into the dark cellar. Among the cobwebs and dust, he found an old book bound in what appeared to be human skin, inked in blood. The cover bore a sinister title, Necronomicon Ex Mortis. Despite his better judgment, he took the book upstairs, eager to share his discovery with the others. Fascinated by the strange book, Eric began to read aloud from its pages. The air grew thick with tension as the words seemed to echo unnaturally. Mia, already on edge from her withdrawal symptoms, felt an overwhelming sense of dread. As Eric continued reading, the cabin's atmosphere changed, the lights flickered, and a cold breeze swept through, despite the closed windows and doors. That night, Mia went to the bathroom to splash water on her face. As she looked into the mirror, her reflection began to distort. Her eyes turned black and her expression twisted into a sinister grin. She felt an uncontrollable force take over her body. The others, hearing her screams, rushed to her aid, only to find her violently attacking herself. They restrained her, but it was clear that something evil had taken hold of her. The evil presence awakened by the Necronomicon began to spread beyond the cabin. The forest came alive with dark energy, trees moved menacingly, and shadows darted between the trunks. The friends, trapped and terrified, tried to leave, but found the forest itself blocking their way. The once inviting woods had become a living nightmare, intent on keeping them captive. Mia, now fully possessed and transformed into a deadite, attacked her friends with unnatural strength and ferocity. Her eyes were lifeless, and she moved with a terrifying, jerky motion. David and the others fought to defend themselves, but it was clear that their friend was no longer human. The cabin became a battleground, the air thick with the sounds of struggle and screams. Desperate to save Mia and themselves, the remaining friends huddled together to come up with a plan. Eric, holding the Necronomicon, suggested they might be able to reverse the curse by performing a ritual detailed in the book. It was a long shot, but they had no other options. They gathered the necessary items and prepared to confront the evil head-on, hoping to save their friend and end the nightmare. Eric began the ritual, reading aloud from the Necronomicon while surrounded by candles and ancient symbols drawn on the floor. The air crackled with dark energy, and the cabin seemed to pulse with a malevolent force. Mia, still possessed, fought against the restraints, her eyes glowing with a supernatural light. The others stood guard, weapons ready, praying the ritual would work. As Eric continued the ritual, a swarm of deadites drawn by the dark energy attacked the cabin. The friends fought bravely, their faces contorted with fear and determination. The cabin shook violently as the battle reached its climax. Just when it seemed they were about to be overwhelmed, the ritual took effect. A blinding light filled the room, and the deadites began to disintegrate, their screams echoing through the night. As the sun rose over the forest, the dark presence lifted, and the cabin fell silent. The friends, battered and exhausted but alive, looked at each other with relief. Mia, now free from the possession, collapsed into David's arms, tears streaming down her face. They knew the horrors they had faced would stay with them forever, but they were grateful to have survived. They vowed to never speak of the Necronomicon again and left the cursed cabin behind, determined to put the nightmare behind them. The House of Eternal Torment. A group of college friends, Alex, Jane, Mike, Sarah, and Tom, decided to take a trip to a remote island for an adventure. The island was known for its haunting legends and an old abandoned mansion that locals claimed was cursed. Despite the warnings, the friends, eager for a thrill, chartered a boat and set off. As they approached the island, a thick fog enveloped them, and the sight of the decrepit mansion sent shivers down their spines. Upon reaching the mansion, the friends began to explore its dark, dusty rooms. They found strange symbols etched into the walls and eerie old photographs of the previous inhabitants. Jane felt a chill run down her spine as she picked up a photo of a stern-looking man with hollow eyes. As they ventured deeper into the mansion, the air grew colder, and an overwhelming sense of dread settled over them. That night, as the friends gathered in the mansion's grand hall, they began to hear faint whispers and footsteps echoing through the dark corridors. Mike, the skeptic of the group, insisted it was just the old house settling, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The whispers grew louder, almost as if the walls themselves were speaking, and the friends realized they were not alone. While investigating a strange noise, Mike wandered down a dark hallway. Suddenly, a shadowy figure lunged at him, its eyes glowing with a sinister light. He screamed in terror as the figure clawed at him, leaving deep gashes on his arms. The others rushed to his aid, but the figure vanished as quickly as it had appeared. Shaken and terrified, they realized that the legends about the island were true. The mansion was haunted by malevolent spirits. The next day, the friends looked out from the mansion's windows and saw a horrifying sight. Zombies emerging from the graves in the island's graveyard. Decayed hands broke through the soil, and the undead crawled out, driven by an insatiable hunger for the living. The friends watched in horror as the zombies shuffled towards the mansion, their moans echoing through the foggy air. Desperate to escape, the friends barricaded the mansion's doors and windows, trying to keep the zombies out. The undead pounded on the walls, their groans growing louder and more insistent. Alex found an old shotgun in a dusty closet, while Tom armed himself with a broken chair leg. They knew their only chance of survival was to find a way off the island, but the boat they came in was on the other side of the zombie-infested graveyard. While searching for a way to fight back, Jane discovered a hidden room in the mansion. Inside, she found ancient books, an altar, and a large, sinister-looking tome. The book contained dark rituals and spells, hinting at the mansion's dark past. It revealed that the island's previous inhabitants had practiced necromancy, summoning the dead to serve them. The rituals had gone horribly wrong, cursing the island and its mansion forever. Determined to end the curse, Jane decided to perform a banishment ritual from the tome. She gathered her friends in the mansion's grand hall and began reading aloud from the ancient book. The air crackled with dark energy, and the zombies outside howled in agony. The walls of the mansion shook, and the ground trembled as the ritual reached its climax. As the ritual took effect, the friends fought off the last of the zombies that had broken into the mansion. The undead creatures lunged at them, but they stood their ground, driven by a newfound strength. The mansion glowed with an eerie light, and one by one the zombies began to disintegrate, their bodies turning to ash. The dark presence lifted, and the mansion fell silent once more. As the sun rose over the island, the friends stood on the shore, looking at the now peaceful landscape. The curse had been lifted, and the undead were gone. They felt a mix of relief and exhaustion, knowing they had survived a nightmare. Boarding their boat, they vowed never to return to the island, and to warn others of the horrors they had faced. The mansion, now empty and silent, stood as a grim reminder of the dark secrets it held. The haunting of the Perrin farmhouse. In the summer of 1971, the Perrin family, Roger, Carolyn, and their 5 daughters, Andrea, Nancy, Christine, Cindy, and April, moved into a secluded farmhouse in Rhode Island. The house was large and full of character, but from the moment they arrived, Carolyn felt an unsettling presence. Despite the house's charm, the air seemed thick with a sense of foreboding. On their first night in the farmhouse, Carolyn was jolted awake by the sound of faint whispers and footsteps echoing through the hallway. She checked on her daughters, who were sound asleep, and convinced herself it was just the creaks of an old house. But the whispers persisted, growing louder each night, and Carolyn couldn't shake the feeling that they were not alone. As days turned into weeks, disturbing events became more frequent. Objects moved on their own, pictures fell off the walls, and doors creaked open without anyone touching them. The daughters reported seeing shadowy figures lurking in the corners of their rooms. Roger tried to find rational explanations, but Carolyn knew something sinister was at play. One night, as Carolyn was brushing her hair in front of a mirror, she noticed a dark, shadowy figure standing behind her reflection. Her blood ran cold as she turned around to find nothing there. From that moment on, Carolyn began experiencing strange sensations, feeling cold hands on her shoulders and hearing malevolent whispers in her ear. The entity was growing stronger, and its focus seemed to be on her. Desperate for help, Carolyn reached out to Ed and Lorraine Warren, renowned paranormal investigators. When the Warrens arrived, they immediately sensed the malevolent presence in the house. Lorraine, a gifted clairvoyant, saw dark visions of the house's past and the entity that haunted it. She warned the Perrons that they were dealing with a powerful and malevolent spirit. The Warrens set up equipment throughout the house to capture paranormal activity. They recorded eerie sounds, shadowy figures, and even witnessed objects moving on their own. Lorraine had a vision of a witch named Bathsheba, who had once lived on the property and performed dark rituals, cursing the land and its inhabitants. The spirit of Bathsheba was determined to torment and possess Carolyn. To banish Bathsheba, the Warrens decided to perform a cleansing ritual. They gathered in the farmhouse's basement, where the dark energy was strongest. As they began the ritual, the air crackled with malevolent energy. Bathsheba's spirit manifested. Lashing out violently, Carolyn, now partially possessed, writhed in agony as the spirit fought to maintain control. Realizing the severity of the situation, Ed decided to perform an exorcism on Carolyn. The room shook violently as he recited prayers and commands to expel the spirit. Dark shadows swirled around them, and Bathsheba's spirit screamed in defiance. Lorraine prayed fervently, her faith and love for her husband strengthening their resolve. The battle between light and darkness reached its peak. As Ed's exorcism reached its climax, a blinding light filled the room. Bathsheba's spirit screamed one last time before being banished from the house. Carolyn collapsed in relief, the dark presence lifting from her. The house fell silent, the oppressive atmosphere replaced with a sense of peace. The Perrons embraced, grateful to be free from the malevolent spirit that had tormented them. In the days that followed, the Perron family began to heal from their traumatic experience. The farmhouse, once a place of fear and darkness, now felt like home again. The Warrens bid them farewell, relieved to have helped, but wary of the dangers that still lurked in the world. As they drove away, the sun shone brightly over the farmhouse, a beacon of hope and a reminder of the strength of love and faith in the face of evil.